Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Veg Grower Podcast. My name's Richard and I want to encourage and inspire you to grow more of your own food. And I do this by sharing what's been going on in my own allotment and my own garden. Now this week it is of course Christmas week, and I'm sure like many of us we are incredibly busy getting ready for the festivities. I've been down the allotment and harvested all my Christmas food. We've got plenty of leeks, plenty of parsnips, plenty of carrots, and I'm very, very happy with everything that we have. So we're on to a winner straight away. But something I always think it's important to incorporate is having a bit of fun with our allotment and our garden. And because it is Christmas week, I'm sure you're not going to want to hear about what's been going on my allotment, because I'm sure you want to get down yours as well. So what I thought we would do this week is something that we would do during COVID lockdown. It's our pub quiz. Now how this is going to work, I've got 15 questions right in front of me that I'm going to read out to you. Once I've read through all 15 questions, we're going to have a listen to the recipe of the week from Chef Scott, and then I will come back with the answers for you. So if you're driving or anything, you may find this a little bit tricky to do, but if you are not driving, you can grab a pen, grab a paper, get your family and friends around to join in, and let's test our vegetable growing knowledge. So the first question that we have is, what is the main aid for pollinating beans? What is the main pollinator for beans? Question 2. The Three Sisters traditionally combines what 3 types of vegetable plants? Question 3. Is it possible to eat the broad bean pods? The pods that we take apart to get to the actual broad beans. Can you eat those? Question 4. In the Northern Hemisphere, what side of the garden is it best to plant tall plants such as climbing beans? The best way to do this, what side on a compass would you use? Question 5 is a true or false question. Tomato plants that are determinate are more bushy plants, and tomato plants that are indeterminate are more viney plants. True or false? Question 6. When a plant has beautiful, lush foliage but almost no fruit, the plant has an overdose of what? Question 7. True or false? Potato plants want lots of organic matter in the soil for the potato to grow better. Question 8. Runner beans usually have red flowers and red seeds, but what are the other colour of the flower and seeds that is quite common? Question 9. In which season is asparagus most often cropped and eaten in the UK? Question 10. Tomatoes originally originated from which continent? Whereabouts in the world did tomatoes originally come from? Question 11. What word is the fear of vegetables? Question 12. What is the offshoot of a strawberry plant called? Question 13. Which parts of the amaranth plant would you usually eat? Question 14. What is the name of the scale used to measure the heat of chilies? And question 15. What does crop rotation mean? So there's your 15 questions. These are all for fun, of course, so enjoy. And let's find out what Chef Scott has for us this week, and then we'll come back and go through the answers.
Chopping all the veggies, sizzle in the air. Chef Scott with the magic, smells are everywhere. Water starts to boil, onions hit the pan. Recipe of the week, let the feast begin. Cooking with Chef Scott, flavors
Scott here with this week's recipe, and this week I thought we'd do something different and share a drink recipe, a festive non-alcoholic Irish cream liqueur, perfect for those who are doing the driving or for those that don't drink alcohol but still want to enjoy a festive drink. So let's head to the kitchen and hear how it's made. As usual, you can find this recipe and others on the veggrowerpodcast.co.uk or on my Instagram page, Seed to Table Plot 13. This recipe makes 8 drinks and you will need 300 millilitres of double cream, 110 millilitres of evaporated milk, 4 tablespoons of maple syrup, 50 ml of freshly brewed espresso coffee, a pinch of cinnamon, 10 millilitres of vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon of cocoa powder and ice to serve. Method: whisk all the ingredients together and then pour over ice to serve. And that's the recipe done. And that's it from me this week.
Well, as you know, I don't drink, so having a non-alcoholic Baileys sounds like a great idea. Thank you so much for that, Scott. I will be trying it myself over this Christmas period. But of course, it is time now to go through the answers for this pub quiz. Hope you're enjoying it so far. So question 1, what is the main aid for pollinating beans? And the answer is bees are the main pollinator. Bees. Question 2 was the Three Sisters traditionally combines what 3 types of vegetable plants? And the answer is corn, beans and squash. Now, the idea here being that the corn creates a long, strong stem for the beans to climb up, and the beans fix nitrogen in the soil, which benefits the corn and the squash shades out the soil. But you could, of course, use sunflowers in place of corn and many other things. It's not strictly strict with this, but that traditionally it uses corns, bean and squash. Now question 3 was, can you eat broad bean pods? And the answer is that yes you can, but they are best when the pods are young. Now we've actually done this here at the Veg Grower podcast, and I've only done it once, to be honest. We found that it was much better when the pods were young. What we did is we tried various different ways of trying to eat these pods. We found coating them in the batter and frying them to be one of the best ways, but they weren't what I would call the best tasting or the most appetizing thing to eat, but they were certainly edible. Now question 4, in the northern hemisphere, which side of the garden is best to plant tall plants such as climbing beans? And the answer is of course on the north side. This just means that those plants are less likely to cast any shade on any other plants. Of course, that does depend on your garden. Not everybody's garden is the same, and most books will tell you that you need full sun for all your vegetable plants. This is something I've been enjoying with Lucy Chamberlain's book, is the take on that. Question 5, true or false, tomato plants that are determinate are more bushy plants, and tomato plants that are indeterminate are more viney plants. And the answer to that is true. In fact, determinate plants you don't necessarily need to support. But yeah, that is true. Question 6. When a plant has a beautiful, lush foliage but almost no fruit, the plant has an overdose of what? And the answer to that is, of course, nitrogen. Nitrogen encourages leafy growth, whereas if you want flowers, you do need some potassium or potash. Question 7, true or false? Potato plants want lots of organic matter in the soil for the potatoes to grow better. The answer to that is false, because lots of organic matter, especially horse manure, can actually lead to getting lots of scab on the potatoes. So although we do mulch our potato plants, lots of organic matter in the soil can cause scab. Question 8. Runner beans usually have red flowers and red seeds, but what other colour of flower and seed is quite common? The answer to that is, of course, white. Now there are some other colours that are coming out that are quite fancy, but generally red or white. Now, in fact, runner beans were originally imported into Europe as an ornamental flower, whereas dahlias were originally imported for their tuber. However, nowadays we of course use runner beans for the food and dahlias for ornamentals. How times change. Question 9. In which season is asparagus most often cropped and eaten in the UK? The answer to that is of course spring. We really only have a very short period where we can harvest asparagus, usually about 6 to 8 weeks. This is why it's good to try and grow many different types of varieties to try and spread out that cropping period for as long as possible. But usually mid-April, May, June is when we can get some asparagus, depending of course on the variety. Question 10. Tomatoes originally originated from which continent? That of course is South America. Question 11. Which word means the fear of vegetables? I didn't know this one, but the answer to this is lacanophobia. 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 Now question 12. What is the offshoot of the strawberry plant called? The answer to that is of course a runner, and that's often how we get more plants from our strawberry plants, by potting up those runners. Question 13. Which parts of the amaranth plant would you usually eat? The answer of course is the leaves and the seeds, which form a bit of a grain. I've tried growing amaranth before, but we've not had much luck with it, but we might try again in 2025. Question 14. What is the name of the scale used to measure the heat of chilies? And of course the answer to that is the Scoville scale. And that scale tells you just how hot a chili is based on how much you have to dilute the chili down in water for it to not be noticeable. And the final question I asked is, what does crop rotation mean? The answer is of course by growing a different group of crops in a different vegetable bed each year. There's a lot of debate whether crop rotation is necessary. It's certainly something that I do try and practice myself, but a lot of people say it's not necessarily necessary in the home garden. But again, I do try that, and we spoke about that a couple of weeks ago. So how many did you get out of 15? Please do get in touch and let me know how you got on. I know this has been slightly different for this week, but as I said, it is Christmas week. I'm actually looking forward to Christmas week because I've got quite a bit of time off work. I'm going to be doing a bit of tidying up in the garden when I can. Of course, we're entertaining guests and having people coming around. One of the main jobs I'm going to be doing on Boxing Day is, of course, sowing some onion seeds. Traditionally, onion seeds, main crops, are sown around Christmas Day and Boxing Day. So it's going to be a great time to sow some of those onion seeds. Certainly something that I will be doing. Now, I've already mentioned Lucy Chamberlain's book. That comes out the 2nd of January. I've mentioned this before. I've been sent an advance copy and I'm thoroughly enjoying reading it. It's called Grow Veg Anywhere. There's a link in the show notes if you are interested in that. But I am thoroughly enjoying reading it. If you are looking to get that, if you've got an Amazon or book voucher for Christmas as a present, you might want to look at getting this book because I highly, highly recommend it. Not just because she's a friend of mine, but I'm really enjoying reading it. And you'll hear more about that, of course, towards the end of January. Right, I'm going to start wrapping this one up. It has been a slightly shorter one compared to usual, as I said. That's due to the fact that it is Christmas week, and I'm sure you don't want to hear about what I've been doing when you're longing to get down to your allotment yourself. If you've enjoyed this podcast, then please do rate and review on your podcast provider. It only takes you a few seconds, but it means the world to us. Now, we have actually had a couple of reviews over on Spotify from Lynn over the last couple of weeks. So a couple of weeks ago, she said some great information this week about successional growing and how often to sow. Also, you talked about not letting beds go empty. I try and have small seedlings ready to go in even before the crops are harvested. That's a great way of keeping your beds productive as well. And then on the back of last week's podcast, she said, after listening about hazel coppicing, there's a lot of neglected hazel grown around at my plot site. I've had a great time cutting as much of with my loppers could manage. Then I collected various pieces of conifer, yew, butcher's broom, variegated holly, elder, ivy and twisted them to make a Christmas wreath. Then tied in the other cuttings and added straw flowers from home. Really pleased with the outcome. It's hanging on my door. Definitely going to coppice more hazel again. Hazel is such a great thing to use in the garden. One tree is all you really need if you know how to coppice right. Now, if you have enjoyed this podcast, you want to support the work that we do, please consider becoming a member of our Supporters Club. I haven't spoken about that much today because it's not my usual length podcast, but the Supporters Club is set up to keep this podcast running. Just £5 a month to be a member gives you access to extra behind-the-scenes podcasts and a collection of seeds sent to your door every single month that you are a member. That's just £5 a month, and the details on that at theveggrowpodcast.co.uk. If you want to get in touch, my email address is richard@theveggrowpodcast. You can also visit the website and leave us a comment on the bottom of a blog post or leave us a voicemail. We're doing a bit of an overhaul on the website at the moment as well, so things are going to be changing up there. And of course, don't forget you can find me on social media. And finally, I just want to wish you a very Merry Christmas or whatever you may be celebrating at this time. From Scott, myself, Amanda and Roxy, we've really enjoyed doing these podcasts all year round. We're going to continue doing them, of course, but this is a time of year that makes it all so worthwhile when we sit down to our Christmas dinner, eating some of our homegrown veg with many of our friends and family joining us. And I hope that's the same for you. So, have a very Merry Christmas. We will be back again next week where we're going to do a bit of a review for 2024 and looking ahead into 2025. Look forward to seeing you there. Until then, please take care.